What if I told you the decades long struggle between pursuing long term growth and achieving short term sales is rooted in a myth, and going broad for the brand and targeted for performance is wrong? According to new research from TransUnion and MMA Global, you can achieve your short term goals without sacrificing long term sustainable growth with a single audience strategy by focusing on the group of consumers most receptive to your advertising, your brand's movable middles. Don't waste another dollar on audiences who won't respond to your ads. To learn more, download TransUnion's new white paper at transunion.com/mm.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Women's health has been a growing category for startups in recent years. Many brands are seeking to remove taboos and stigmas in marketing around menstruation and menopause, for example. Today, we'll be talking with Anne Fullenwider, co-founder and co-CEO of Alloy Women's Health, a women's health brand focused on menopause. She'll discuss the growing category and Alloy's recent foray into TV advertising. Now here's my conversation with Anne. Hi, Anne. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what is Alloy Women's Health? Can you share a little bit about the company, why you founded it, when you founded it, all those details?
Yeah, Alloy Women's Health is a digital platform which helps women with the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause and beyond. We officially founded it in 2020. We launched open to the public almost exactly 3 years ago in November of 2021. And it's been a joy to build Alloy Women's Health to serve this population of women who have been really ignored or worse, and certainly have been suffering in silence for a long, long time. I spent 25 years in magazines. So when I left, my most recent job in magazines was editor-in-chief of Marie Claire magazine. And we had done some stories on women's health, and we had also founded a conference for female entrepreneurs. And I had been so inspired by these women who were coming along and finding a life stage that they did not agree or like the status quo with, and building something to solve their own problems and creating better solutions. And so when my friend Monica Molnar and we actually met on the beach walking our dogs one morning and just started talking about our phase of life we were in. Monica had her ovaries removed prophylactically when she was 40 because she was diagnosed with a BRCA gene. And so she had been, access to great medical care, but no one had prepared her for going into surgical menopause the very next day. And so I kind of call her my canary in the coal mine. So hearing her struggles of finding, basically taking 5 years and 5 doctors to find the right protocol to get herself feeling like herself again was really alarming. And it turns out that's almost 20% of menopausal women have that experience right now of going to 5 doctors, including, we found out, Oprah Winfrey. And so it really seemed that this was a demographic, a population that we were entering and that really needed help. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But we basically knew that, and I was from content world, there seemed to be a communication problem in that women were not talking about this. And we did some digging and found out that there had been a study done 20 years prior that really sort of set people on the wrong course and really put a lot of fear around some of the most simple FDA approved and well-studied solutions out there. And as a result, women were really suffering. And so we did some digging and realized that, if we weren't talking to women about estrogen first and foremost at this phase of their life, that we were really doing them a disservice. So having left my job thinking we were going to do a content site with maybe some nutritional information and help, we ended up diving really into telehealth, pharmacy, and really creating access for women to both information and a solid expertise. So we provide access to all physicians, all menopause trained physicians, and the solutions that really work, which we send right to their home. So, compressing that timeline from 3 to 5 years to 3 to 5 days to getting relief.
So someone can go to your site and then choose from a variety of doctors and kind of initiate a call with them, or how does that work in terms of the services that you're offering? It sounds like you have a lot of content and also connections.
Yeah, so we come into our site. We are, live and available in 50 states plus DC, and you fill out a medical intake form and let us know about your symptoms and anything else that you want to tell us about this, what you're experiencing. And then we match you with a doctor who's licensed in your state. And then the two of you go ahead and sort of create a treatment plan for yourself. It's all asynchronous, so it's all through messaging. And once you agree on a treatment plan or you receive the treatment plan, it's up to the woman to decide which parts of that she'd like to purchase. And then when she purchases, we send the solutions, most of which are prescriptions, straight to her home. And then for the entire length of that prescription, so as long as that prescription is active, which is generally a year, although you can cancel at any time, you have access to that same doctor, that physician, through messaging for, the 24/7 for the rest of that 365 days. And so, this is a unique experience for every woman, even though the root cause of menopause is the same, which is that your body has stopped ovulating and has stopped producing estrogen and progesterone. And so therefore your symptoms are mostly due to that. And so the back and forth is really key, that relationship with the doctor and sort of adjusting doses and figuring out what's working and what's not. You can change form factors. And then the other thing is that menopause symptoms evolve over time. So what works for you at the beginning or, during perimenopause may change. And even 10 years later, you may have different symptoms. And so need to revisit that treatment plan and really have that dialogue with an expert, which is one of the hardest things to find because there are, depending on how perimenopause or menopause, something between 55 and 85 million women in the US alone suffering from these symptoms, and less than 2,000 certified menopause practitioners by the Menopause Society. So that's just an access gap that we cannot really fix in person. And that's why we use technology and built myalloy.com to create that access.
And you have, from your background working at Marie Claire, a long history of connecting with women, talking to women. How did that background prepare you to know what kind of messaging to use for the new company?
Yeah, I think that really was the only expertise I brought to this to this project, but it really turns out was a very important one because, not only did that study 20 years ago change a lot of the messaging around safe and easy and accessibly priced solutions, but it also stopped training in medical schools. So less than 10% of residents in OBGYN and family practice and internal medicine say that they have comfort level treating or even speaking with their patients about menopause. And so there was just this real communication gap across the board. And I am no doctor, but coming from a background of digesting information and complex information and digesting it and then sort of representing it in a way that is accessible and easy. I mean, this is not rocket science, but it is actually something that the medical community and the sort of healthcare landscape at large is just not expert in, which is communication and sort of broad strokes, getting the key messages across to women and letting those women, of course, then take that information and make their own informed decisions with a healthcare practitioner about their care. But, we were just shocked to realize the lack of information and the pervasive misinformation as well that really was stopping women from getting this care and really causing great suffering. And we were shocked. So as a former magazine editor, I love to do this. I love to sort of dive in, see what's going on, and then kind of explain it and get the message out and give it to women in a way and then sort of meet them where they are, across the landscape of how they're getting their information.
I think Alloy is one of a host of newer brands that's focused on women's health, the various stages of women's health. Why do you think this is such an area of interest right now? I mean, I get pitches all the time from female-focused startups that are trying to help women with their health needs. And it seems like, as you said, there has been this dearth of options, but why now are so many coming out?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, now having done this for almost 5 years, I have really been on this journey of learning about the current healthcare landscape. And I don't pretend to understand every piece of it, but it's clear that for various reasons, the established systems, they're no longer, if they ever were, helping the woman, the patient, the end consumer, the end user. This is just a system where the incentives have been really misaligned for a long time and getting worse. And, in the end, I don't know really who they're serving because doctors or healthcare providers are also miserable and not doing the work that they really want to do in the way that they want to do it in the way that they feel is the best to reach people. And so you combine that with this like over time really degrading system that has not gotten better in terms of healthcare, what women can get on a daily basis, like on sort of basic healthcare needs, right? The whole system incentivizes more complex, procedures and the sort of action as opposed to just the counseling. And so you combine that with the fact that a lot of people have been talking about this, that women's bodies were not included in clinical trials until 1994. So there's not a lot of science about how our bodies work, and there is less funding going to, on the national level, less funding going to diseases and conditions that affect primarily women. And as a result, we're really sort of being treated like small men, and we have very different biology. And so there's really been a lack of, from everything from period care to fertility to breastfeeding to menopause, which is universally experienced by those born with ovaries. And so I think that, plus the idea that now we have technology and the ability to connect and the ability to get information out there, which has to be done responsibly. But as one of our advisors said to me, well, the system is broken enough, the women are suffering enough, and the technology is good enough that we're able to build solutions that work better for us than what's currently out there. That, and lastly, I'll say that Gen X is kind of the first generation, and millennials are entering menopause now too, and certainly entering perimenopause. But we're sort of the first. We're not digitally native, but we're digitally fluent, and so we're used to finding solutions for our life stages out in the internets, so to speak.
And for menopause in particular, I think I've seen a few different brands focused on that, but and a lot of the focus feels like it's trying to make it less taboo and kind of more mainstream to talk about it, kind of removing some of the stigmas. And that is across the board for women's health, but specifically around menopause too, I think, because it had been kind of this hush hush thing for so long. How are you guys working to make it more mainstream?
Destigmatizing it and removing the shame and bringing it out from the sort of corners of darkness into the light is absolutely our number one priority at Alloy. It's why I got involved, and it's really, as you say, it's really been refreshing to see each life stage of women's health sort of undergo this. Even around miscarriage and pregnancy care and those things, it's really, it's refreshing, it feels liberating, but it's also actually just really good for health outcomes. Women who experience something that they're experiencing in isolation and feel that they can't talk to anyone about it. And then you add the fact that with this sort of misinformation and the lack of training out there, when women are bringing this up to their doctors, many doctors are either uninformed, uninterested, or certainly, even the ones who really want to help, and many times have the wrong training or don't have training at all. And so they're being dismissed. And so by the time people come to Alloy, many times they've had a terrible experience somewhere else or just have been ignored. And so the idea that we can bring it out of the shame and stigma and make it normal to talk about, and really, like, this is universal, and women are living longer and longer, and this is a huge chunk of our lives. And so the quicker we can normalize it, the better. And that's good for, our mental health, but it's also good for our actual physical health.
Let's take a quick break for this message from our sponsor.
For today's marketers, efficiency is the name of the game. But maximizing the impact of your marketing budget with a movable middles audience isn't just a theory, it's a proven fact. Based on findings from TransUnion and MMA Global, nearly a dozen brands, from consumer packaged goods to banking, boosted their ROAS by up to 23 times when they targeted movable middles, outperforming every other commonly used audience strategy. To explore how movable middles can help you make the most of your ad dollars, download TransUnion's new white paper at transunion.com/mm.
Welcome back. So Alloy recently invested in a TV campaign for the first time. Can you talk about that campaign and kind of why now, and what kind of other marketing you had done before you made this big leap into TV?
Yeah, it's been a really wonderful project to work on. We're really excited about it, and goes along with the whole idea that we want to destigmatize this and normalize the conversation and reach as many women as possible, because this is a universal phase. And as much work as we've all been doing in the space, really, when you get the sort of consumer insights, the majority of women are still not getting the help that they need, don't talk about this, and really don't know where to go. So what we found when we first started Alloy was that women are, surprise, surprise, consulting Dr. Google and really, searching online for solutions, because they're just lost and in many cases suffering in silence for years. The average Alloy customer has spent 3 years looking for solutions before she comes to us. So our first marketing efforts were really on Google search and as well as Meta. But really we were looking, we started in the digital world because we're a digital company, and that's where women are right now: Instagram, Facebook, etc., in addition to Google search. And so that did really well, and it's still doing well. And that, women are certainly finding us there. But we wanted to diversify our channels as this conversation happily has grown over the past, like, since we started Alloy. Like, more and more people are talking about it, which is great. And we really wanted to capitalize on that momentum. And so we wanted to do something really bold and sort of in the spirit of like, hey, let's destigmatize this, like, let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the open. We decided to go for TV, which felt really kind of exciting and bold and really somewhere that this conversation still wasn't really happening. We're the first in our category to enter TV advertising, which is also important to us because we really want to keep at the vanguard of breaking barriers down in menopause care. And so we decided to go in this TV ad, and we really approached it from a test and learn point of view, which I can elaborate on.
Well, just talking a little more about the channel, I know a lot of healthcare brands like Hims, for example, they really gravitate toward connected TV with ads, kind of flooding that zone. Did you run this campaign on linear TV and connected, or was it just one?
We decided to do linear. It was
Mhm.
more, first of all, there's a huge number of women in our demo who are watching linear TV and watching TV in general, which is another reason why we decided to break into this channel. And we did it also to sort of be able to play and test and learn. And we done not to say that we won't go into other areas of TV. TV is a very vast and complex landscape, which we have learned, but it's certainly, this is a start.
And were there other channels besides TV in the campaign?
We certainly broke out on TV and then decided to also use the TV ads that we created to spread the word. We did it on YouTube TV as well, and we're testing some of the material also and coming up in Meta.
And what has reaction been like from customers? Because I know the campaign started a little while ago.
Yeah. So we decided in this test and learn phase of the campaign to really create three very different creatives. So like three completely different ways of getting the message across, which was really fun to explore. We worked with a great advertising agency called Quirk, which is women owned and based in Brooklyn. And they were really helping us sort of explore three very different creatives. So the first was, or one of them was kind of conceptual and very abstract and kind of trying to get to this idea that like how shattering menopause can feel. And so we did one that was, it starts with a porcelain doll of a woman, of a lady, and it breaks and shatters. And we say menopause sucks because it does, it can. And the next creative, the idea was I think it's three women sort of in their 40s and 50s, living active, exciting lives and not being sort of shut down or diminished by their menopause symptoms. That's another thing we really wanted to do with this is show different visual representations of what a menopausal woman looks like. I think when we started this, it was really amazing to see people who weren't as well versed in this as we are, like just always show us pictures of women with gray hair. And certainly there are women in their 50s with gray hair, but the menopausal woman is like 45. You're starting to experience symptoms. The average age is 51 of menopause, which means perimenopause can start 10 years prior to that. And we sort of kept having to remind lots of different people that like menopausal women look like me and Monica. It's, your grandmother went through menopause quite a while ago, and certainly the postmenopausal state lasts a long time. But so anyway, we wanted to show just like active women in their, average age 51 doing cool stuff like in their career and their lives. So that was the creative number two. And then creative number three was we actually went and found real customers and interviewed them about their experience both with menopause and with finding relief at Alloy. And the great learning that we've gotten is that the thing that has resonated the most is those real women talking about their real stories. And I think that speaks to really the profound isolation that women have been experiencing through this life phase and how affirming it can be just to, see someone like themselves talking about it. And then, of course, talking about finding relief, which is what we're all still, most of our women in our demographic are still searching for relief.
And it feels like there's a lot of potential with that direction for future marketing next year, which brings me to my last question, as we're almost out of time, which is kind of around the future and kind of as you think about 2025 and the brand, where do you see Alloy going and what are you focusing on?
Yeah, so it's really, can't believe that we've been out there for 3 years, and it's been we've learned so much in the past 3 years about so many things. But having learned just now that women really want to see themselves, that's just a really exciting creative direction we can go into. And we have so many really wonderful customers. We have very like active group of women who come to support groups and really, participate. So we're excited to build that out more. That said, the other real direction for next year is when we started this, as I said earlier, we really wanted to just get the message and the information about estrogen and the hormones out there. And that was our, as they say in business, our MVP. And we, really wanted to just provide that access to the expertise and the solutions that really work. We've done that, and we certainly have many more women to reach, but that idea that you get the sort of baseline, that brings you back to sort of feeling like yourself, and we've sort of solved the pain as like the number one step in the customer journey once you join Alloy. The exciting thing now is that we've been talking to them and listening to them about what else they want. And the fact is, once you sort of get back to your baseline, you feel good, and there's so much more life to live. And then we can sort of talk about what else we can do to actually like make this part of your life joyful. So we say, we've solved her pain, now let's spark her joy. And that means moving into areas which we've already moved into. We launched skincare, we have a couple of sexual health options and one hair option. But the idea is that next year we're really moving into this spark her joy phase of the company. So really moving into more lifestyle, hair, skin, sexual health, et cetera, to round out that Alloy, which is a fusion of elements for strength and protection against corrosion.
Great. Well, I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thanks so much, Adrienne. Great to speak with you.
That was Anne Fullenwider, co-founder and co-CEO of Alloy's Women's Health, and I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Ciardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast on your favorite player. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for tuning in.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.